I give the floor to Ms. Shantal Munro-Knight. Shantal, she comes from the Caribbean Policy Development Center. She's the executive director, and CPDC is an umbrella, a regional umbrella organization working in the English-speaking Caribbean countries. Shantal, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Excellencies, Member States, civil society colleagues. I'm deeply appreciative of the opportunity to speak to you, and particularly to bring you greetings from a very sunny Caribbean. In that context, I do want to indicate that the perspective that I will bring is very much of a Caribbean perspective, particularly as part of the SIDS group of developing countries. For civil society in the Caribbean, discussions around international public finance must be undergirded by three key principles. One, the recognition of climate change as a primary concern for SIDS, which must be supported through financial additionality. Secondly, the need to ensure that ODA matches national priorities in order to imbue ownership, sustainable transformation, and effectiveness. And thirdly, the need for rigor in approaches to innovative financing mechanisms. Let me touch on each of these points. First of all, the recognition of climate change as a primary concern for SIDS. While there is considerable variability in the levels of ODA received by SIDS and states in the Caribbean specifically, there's no denying that ODA still remains a critical source of external financing for these states. Stable and predictable transfers of ODA can therefore play an important transformative role. While we welcome the acknowledgement that financial flows should be aligned with the three pillars of sustainable development, for countries in the Caribbean, we believe that climate change is indeed the most pressing development challenge. Of course, we recognize that efforts to tackle climate change and eradicate poverty are extremely interrelated. In this regard, discussions on international public finance should recognize that for SIDS, tackling climate change will have important implications for financing development, given the level of resources that will be required to lead adaptation efforts. Moreover, it is clear that addressing this issue will require new and additional resources outside of those allocated under traditional ODA portfolios. There needs to be stronger recognition and agreement that climate change is not double counted as ODA and is considered both separate from and additional to traditional ODA. Moreover, there needs to be greater commitment to simplifying access to climate finance, especially for SIDS countries with lower levels of institutional capacity. On the issue of the need to ensure that ODA matches national priorities, development assistance must support the national development process for positive development outcomes to be realized. There must be recognition that current practices of ODA transfers must be realigned in order to ensure that the best practices of development effectiveness are adhered to, that priorities for the allocation of ODA are aligned to national development strategies, and importantly, that they are without unnecessary conditionalities and therefore will foster the necessary level of allocative efficiency. Moreover, while we align ourselves with the notion of smart ODA, we believe that leveraging should be measured not by the additional quantity of resources which can be mobilized, but rather the extent to which it can be used to scale up transformative impacts for the vulnerable, poor, and marginalized. Noting again that we must develop indicators and methodologies to evaluate the modality of delivery, quality, and effectiveness of these resource flows. In relation to innovative financing mechanisms, while we believe that innovative financing mechanisms can be extremely beneficial, there are some concerns. There is a need to consider the extent to which innovative financing for development initiatives actually work to strengthen beneficiary country ownership over the development process. We also emphasize that innovative sources of development finance should be additional and complementary to traditional sources of development finance and not simply used to offset declines in traditional donor assistance. Innovative finance initiatives should therefore be assessed in terms of their ability to efficiently and effectively deliver development results, both in the immediate and the longer term. Thank you.
Thank you, Shantal. You carried the voice of the Caribbean civil society, and your focus on the climate finance and the ODA and also the innovative financial mechanism is very